lovelings! Thank you for joining me here today on my bedroom floor. Today I'd like to give you a little manifestation tip, and to do so I'm going to use a little camera metaphor. So I'm going to take a picture of you. This film is going to take about a minute to develop. I want you to pay attention to the different phases of this film developing. To start, it's empty. Still empty. Just gotta wait a little bit. Starting to see some things appearing. There you go. Some wispy outlines of the image, but it's still developing. Still developing. Still developing. Still developing. Okay, and that is about as clear as it's gonna get because it is overexposed, but you get the point. It takes some time for this image to develop on this film. Now, knowing this, let's say after the first 5 seconds when the film still appeared white, if I had gone, oh, it's taking too long, and thrown it in the trash, you would be like, why so impatient? You knew it was gonna develop, you just have to give it some time, right? Actually, it did get a little clearer. See, I got impatient and I didn't wait for the film to develop, which is funny considering why I'm using this metaphor today. So what does the film represent? This film represents the process of your manifestations from your inner world becoming real in the outer world. Think of the 3D world, the outer world, like this. It is an after image of something that first happened in here, in your inner world. And when we refer to the inner world in manifestation, we're talking about your imagination, your feeling state, so your emotions, anything you envision or create as an internal experience. Then an after image becomes visible in the 3D. And it's because of the delayed effect of 3D, the development time, that people often give up on their manifestations or settle for half versions of their manifestations before they've fully come to fruition. If there's anything I want you to take away from this video, it's this. You really can have absolutely anything. When I say anything, I mean anything. You can be as specific as you want. You can be as detailed as you want. You can be as picky and fussy as you want about getting your manifestation down to the last detail. But this funny thing happens when you're manifesting big manifestations that are very complicated and detailed. Because it takes some time for the 3D to develop the after image of what you envision in your inner world, you'll have a lot of what I'll call false alarms. For example, let's say you're manifesting a partner. Let's say this person doesn't exist yet. You haven't met them yet. You've just decided in your mind that you want to date a 6-foot tall blonde guy with blue eyes, and you want him to be a teacher, and you want him to be the same religion as you, and you want him to be kind and funny and really into race cars. I don't know, just making something up. Now let's say, because that is a tall order, let's be honest, it's gonna take some time for reality to rearrange to bring this thing to you. Now, here's the thing you have to remember. On your way from being here where you've never met this person to being over here where you're with this person, they fully exist, they're a flesh and blood manifestation, you did it, you went all the way and you got this person. There's gonna be versions of this person who appear along the way as more time goes on. So for example, let's say after like a few days of visualizing this specific person, you meet a tall blonde guy who's into race cars, but he's not very nice, he's not very funny, he's not any of the other things you wanted. Right here, a lot of people give up. They either say, oh, I guess that's as good as this manifestation's gonna get, I'm gonna settle for this person. Or they say, oh, it's not the thing I wanted in its totality, so I must be doing something wrong, I'm gonna give up. don't do that. Don't give up. Like it's gonna take time. The film is still developing. So just because it's a faint image of what you want doesn't mean you're not gonna get the full image if you just persist a little longer. But then there comes the second false alarm where you meet a tall, blonde guy, and he's kind, and he's funny, but he's not the same religion as you, and he's not into race cars. So you're closer to having all the things you're asking for. And so again, here's another moment in the timeline of manifestation where people either give up or they settle. But believe me when I say, you really can have the totality of what it is you desire. You really can manifest in picture perfect detail and with the utmost specificity anything you desire. And what you need to understand is when you start getting those faint, almost manifestations, those half manifestations, that's the image currently developing in reality. That means whatever you've been doing to manifest, whether it's just meditating or scripting, affirming, whatever, it means keep doing that. So that's actually pretty much the lesson of this video, and you can tune out now if you want. But for those of you who'd like a story time to illustrate what I'm talking about, I've got one for you. So here we go. About 7 years ago, I was working the worst job I've ever had. I was overworked, severely underpaid, extremely tired, and it got to the point where I was having like panic attacks before going to work because I was just burnt out. I made the decision to quit without a backup plan. I did not have another job lined up. I couldn't do interviews while working at this job because I was doing 10-hour shifts 5 days a week. There was no time for interviews with anybody else. So I quit and I made manifesting a new job my full-time job. Literally, I would wake up in the morning the same time I would go to work, immediately begin sitting down and visualizing and manifesting and affirming and doing all those things for hours every day. This went on for a month. So before I began that process, I made a list, let's say about 10 things that I wanted in my ideal job. It had to be very quiet. I had to have my own desk because I didn't even have my own desk at this previous exploitative job. I didn't want to be micromanaged. I wanted to be left alone to do all my work and a number of other things. So 10 things, and they were all non-negotiable for me. So as you might imagine, in this span of a month, I got a lot of false alarms. I was finding job opportunities that were like 3 of the things on my list or 5 of the things on my list, but it wouldn't be well paid, or I wouldn't have my own desk, or clearly the manager was like, a micromanager, and I just don't have the capacity for that. Because of how long it was taking, and because of the fact that I had quit without really a plan in place, I had a lot of opportunities to give up and say, okay, well, it wouldn't be so bad to just work for like a less than ideal job. Would it really be that bad if I took a lower salary? Would it really be that bad if I had a micromanager boss? I was questioning my own conviction about what I wanted. And I had well-meaning friends who were really concerned that I was turning down like every single job offer. I even got a job offer over the phone once. That like this woman saw my resume, decided that I'd be a good fit, didn't even want to interview me, just offered me the job. And I still said no. Now we're at a month, and I still have no reason to believe that I'm gonna find this job that meets all my requirements. And every time I'm tempted to give up, I put on like encouraging Joel Osteen sermons, I say encouraging affirmations, or I practice manifesting smaller things so that I can remind myself that I really can manifest anything. There is no limit. Circumstances don't matter. Finally, at around a month, I got a call from a recruiter. And this recruiter explained to me that there was this job opening with this company I'd never heard of. They weren't announcing the job opening, and he described the job, and it was literally everything on my list. I went and I interviewed, and I got the job. I literally cried when he told me over the phone that I got the job, because if I had given up at any moment in that month-long process where I had all these false alarms, that I had all these opportunities to settle for less than what I wanted, I would have been so unhappy. And I never would have found out that I could indeed have the job I was manifesting. Not some half-baked version of it, but the thing. All 10 of the things on my list. So there's a famous example in that novel, Illusions by Richard Bach, which, by the way, is an excellent book. I cannot recommend it highly enough. In the book, the character is instructed by the Messiah to manifest a blue feather. So he focuses on it, and then he sees eventually a blue feather on a milk carton. And he's like, oh, I got it. And the Messiah character's like, don't you want a real feather? You could have kept going and gotten the real feather instead of just a picture of a feather. We've all done this in our manifestation journeys. We've all mistaken the signpost as the destination. But I'm here to remind you with absolute glee that if you're seeing signposts that resemble the thing that you're manifesting, that doesn't mean stop where you are on the road. It means keep going. You're going in the right direction, and you will ultimately come upon the thing that you've been manifesting in its fullness, in its completeness, in its totality. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Actually, no, that's not it. I have one more thing to say. While we're using photograph metaphors, never forget that the photograph is not the thing. Likewise, the 3D is not the thing. Having your manifestation in physical reality is not the thing. Having it in here is and always will be the real thing. The real world is the inner world. Everything else is an after image that appears after some buffer time has passed, but it's not the real thing, which leads me to my next point. If you're finding the manifestation process frustrating, like if you're getting annoyed with how often you have to affirm and how often you have to meditate and you're burdened by it, then honey, I say this with all due respect, but maybe you don't actually want the thing that you're manifesting. Because the things you manifest should feel good to imagine having. It should feel good to imagine having love. It should feel good to imagine having money. If it doesn't feel good, don't manifest it. Because really, the real reason people give up before their manifestation has fully come to pass is because they're not enjoying the process. They're not enjoying going inward and feeling it in their inner world first. So there's my little reminder to enjoy the process. It should feel good to daydream and fantasize and embody the feeling of already having what it is that you want. Pleasure is in here, and you can access that at any moment. You don't even need a reason. You can just feel it before you have it, and then you really have it. Okay, I think I've said enough. Thank you for watching. I love you very much. Please subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it if you help my channel grow. Let me know what else you want me to talk about in future videos. Okay, I love you. Bye.